Keep pushing that boulder to the top of the hill. Welcome one and all to Suckville.
Extraordinary stories from ordinary humans? Yes, please. This is Live from Suckville, and I'm your host, Silva Florence, a writer, editor, and bike tour leader currently laid up in Suckville with a broken hip. I have learned a lot since starting this podcast. For example, that dick farts exist. And if you're still in the dark about this, it's well worth going back to listen to episode 7. I've also learned that my podcast is doing extremely well in Estonia. And I still don't know why, but thank you, Estonians. I've also learned that it takes me about 4 to 5 hours to edit each of these episodes. Hot damn, it's like an unpaid part-time job at this point, but I love it. I've also learned that I apparently have a very calm, soothing voice, which is really cool. Thanks, guys. And that some people would really like to hear more of me during the podcast. So, for those of you, here you go. I'm just going to talk about me for a little while because, my friends, I've got a little something to tell you. I have finally exited Suckville. Don't worry, I'm still here to manage this podcast. But as of the beginning of May, I have been able to ride my bicycle again. Or I should say I have been able to go suffer like I've never suffered before on my bicycle. Because I can't remember the last time that I have been so out of shape. But it's so lovely to be on a bike again, I have to say. And what else has happened in this period? I started a new job, which is as operations manager in Italy for a company that provides guided walking tours in European cities. It's called Walks in Europe. And it's super, super fun, and I really like it. But it's flippin' crazy. We're experiencing the biggest tourism boom that anyone can remember here in Italy. And I am in charge of Pisa, Siena, Venice, and Florence. Basically, if you want to go sweat your ass off in the hot Florence sun and stare at the Duomo and then go see the David, you know who to call. At any rate, this is why the podcast is now coming out once every 2 weeks instead of once a week as originally planned. Anyway, I kind of lied to you when I said it was just going to be me talking in this podcast this time. Let's go back to that day when I found out in early May that I could ride a bicycle again. Ecstatic. Super stoked, right? The same day, I also found out that my darling mother fell backwards off of a sort of slanted surface in the desert of Utah and cracked her skull. So basically, we just traded one Suckville resident for another. Now, my mom, as you can imagine, is a pretty cool lady. My dad is pretty cool too, but he wouldn't come on the podcast and say anything because he's too cool for school. Just kidding, Dad. I love you. But I've got my mom on here to tell you about this crazy experience of having cracked her skull while, are you ready for it? Trying to save a baby frog. Without further ado, let's hear from my mom. All right, hello everybody in Suckville. Today I have a very special guest. Her name is Melanie, and she's my mother. So, Mom, where do you live?
I live in the beautiful Mojave Desert in southwest Utah, and it's so cool. We have a really nice house in a quiet neighborhood. We're both retired, so, we have pretty much free time to do anything we want.
Who's we? You and your pet pig?
Dad.
Oh.
Me and your father that doesn't want to talk on this podcast.
Well, we love him anyway.
Yes, we do. He's taken really good care of me since I've had this concussion, so I got to give him 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, he's a good guy. We'll keep him.
Yeah, I'll keep him.
So, speaking of this concussion, that's why we've got you on the show today. Because As people already know from the introduction, I found out the same day that I could ride my bike again that you had fallen and gotten a concussion.
Dear.
Aren't we a frickin' pair?
Yes, we are a pair.
So what happened?
Your brother Kyle was visiting, and we were taking him on all these hikes. And there's a
So
really
it's Kyle's
nice...
fault, like usual.
Yeah, it's Kyle's fault. So, no, it's actually all my fault, so I can't blame him. And I'm just really glad that I turned out okay, you know. Anyway, he and I were checking out these ponds on the what used to be called the Three Pond Trail in Snow Canyon State Park, which is really close to where we live.
And where do you live exactly? We didn't say it before.
Ivins, Utah, southwest Utah. It's outside of St. George.
It's beautiful.
Beautiful. It's gorgeous red mountains, and that's what our view is out of the north windows, so it's really cool. So anyway, they changed the name to Red Sands Trail because it's very sandy to get there.
How original of them.
I know. Everything's red sands. Everything's red hills, red mountain. They're not very imaginative about around here.
No offense, St. George.
Yeah, no offense, people, if anybody's listening from St. George. Anyway, the end of the trail was at one pond, and I wanted to see where the other two ponds were because I remembered them from like 10 years ago. And so we started walking up this slick rock, and as we were walking up, and slick rock is sandstone, and it can be at an angle or it can be rather flat, and it's really a misnomer. It's not slick. It's gritty. Your shoes will stick on it.
Yeah, it's great for trying to climb up some stuff.
Yeah, it's really fun climbing, but I think my slick rock days are over. But anyway, so we climbed up kind of a rather steep slick rock, and then we noticed these little frogs, little teeny inch-long frogs. And I said, oh, no, they need to be in this mud puddle down here. You know, they're going to get dehydrated and all this. So Kyle was trying to catch one, and he turned around to face downhill. I was like looking over his shoulder. And then the next thing I know, he says, I don't remember it, but he says, I went, and then I flew over him, twisted in air, and landed on my right butt cheek.
Oh.
And then I bonked my head.
Oh, Mom.
And it was probably a 5 foot or so drop. I'm so incredibly lucky. I landed on my rear end first.
Yeah.
Because if I would have landed just on my head or even my face, I would have really had a lot more severe injuries. Anyway, the next thing I knew, I was like trying to sit up, and he says he didn't have time to react. He says he tried to grab my arm, but it was like flailing, and my other arm, I had a hiking stick, which I didn't even need. But, you know, kind of subconsciously, when you're holding something, you don't want to land on that side. You don't use it to help yourself land. You don't just let go. You just land however you're going to land.
Yeah.
So I woke up and my glasses were flicked off, but they didn't get bent or anything. And I sat up and I was like really dizzy. And Kyle's calling, Dad, Mom fell. So Scott comes running over and I said I was dizzy. So they're both going, you need to go to the hospital.
Oh my
So we
gosh,
walked
Mom.
out. I walked out like 2 miles. I'm famous for doing that, you know.
Yeah, I remember when you also broke your, what was it now?
My right ankle.
Ankle. And me and my now ex like carried you out for, that was more than 2 miles.
That was 5 miles, but you carried me up to the trail. And then once we got to the trail, I was walking. Your ex gave me a yucca stalk to use as a cane. And then you, on the other side, you supported me. And even you had sore arms after.
I was your human crutch. I was really weirdly sore the next day.
So was I.
I guess I've never half carried my mother before in the dark down a trail.
Yeah, 5 miles. So we kind of did the same thing this time as we did last time. We came home, and it was basically so Kyle could take care of the cat while Dad took me to the hospital. We left Kyle at home, and then we went to the hospital and sat around. See, we have this thing called the Ironman every year, and it was the week before the Ironman, and that's when a a bunch of extra people are in town.
Yeah, that's a big famous like triathlon race.
Yeah, it's triathlon. Anyway, there was this guy that looked really, I mean, he had a broken nose, he had blood all over his face and all this stuff and scratches on his arms. I think he might have been a bicyclist.
Oh, probably.
Practicing. Yeah, practicing because it was a week before. All these people come in and start acclimating to the elevation and everything. Anyway, when they came to see which person was more injured, who should be attended first, I said, this guy, he looks really bad. But in fact, I had a broken skull. Didn't have any cuts. I had a big bump on the back of my head and a big, what developed into a hematoma on my right butt cheek.
Yeah.
They did a CT scan and they found out I had a fractured skull and 2 hematomas in my brain. One was a subdural and the other was a subarachnoid.
What in the world do those mean?
They're layers of tissue that protects your brain in between your skull and your brain. So the subarachnoid is the worst, but that was just barely anything.
That's your subspider, right?
Yeah, I know. It sounds like a spider. It's kind of a weird name. And I had never heard of it, of course. I have to look it all up afterwards.
I don't blame you.
The subdural was a little bigger. So they said, oh, no, she's bleeding on the brain. We got to keep her in the hospital overnight. And they woke me up every hour overnight to make sure I didn't have one pupil enlarged and the other not, to make sure I could track their fingers when they went back and forth. I could tell them my name and everything like that.
They took good care of you, it sounds like.
Yeah, they took really good care of me. So I'm really thankful that I went to the doctor right away. And
were you nervous like that whole time? What were you feeling like?
I was feeling like I wanted to be checked out because I knew there was something wrong. I knew there was something wrong, and my butt was really sore, and I had a big lump on the back of my head. I felt dizzy and kind of foggy-headed, but thankfully, the only thing, I didn't really have a loss of consciousness, except for I don't remember flying over Kyle and landing. But I do remember sitting up and walking out and everything. So I probably, if I lost consciousness, it was probably only a few seconds.
Very briefly.
So, yeah, I didn't hear Kyle calling Dad. Anyway, so that's good. Those are all good signs. So I went home and they told me to limit screen time, to try to rest my brain. And what I have learned, because I had all these symptoms and things, was that when you get a concussion, your brain slams against your skull, and anything in the way can get injured. I had pretty bad headaches, and when they were really bad, I felt like there was fluid in my left ear, and I couldn't hear as well, but that's pretty much gone. And you can actually lose your hearing from a concussion if you land a certain way where the little bones in there get broken. Or you could end up with tinnitus or something, which I'm so glad that didn't happen. My pupils were fine, but I did have ocular migraines, which are the fun part of migraines. You don't get the headache, but you get the patterns, the aura that a lot of people get. So it's kind of like these very angular triangles and stuff. They're black and white, and they're kind of form an arch or a circle.
Weird.
Oh, it was kind of like a little bit of LSD experience, I guess.
Did you feel like you were high?
No, but at least I got a little entertainment,
Yeah, that's true.
I was already, before I had this, sensitive to light and loud noises, which
Oh, I know.
I'm just like one of these people that get bothered by things. And strong smells, like diesel exhaust. Ugh.
Well, not right now.
Well, no, that's the only good thing about it is I don't smell diesel exhaust anymore or car exhaust. So anyway, I didn't even get the loss of the sense of smell until the 5th day. At least I didn't notice it till the 5th day.
And is it coming back at all?
No, but it could take, I could get it back in like 6 months or so, or Never.
Can you taste stuff?
No, only salt, sugar, bitter, sour, and savory. That's what's on your tongue. I can taste those things on the tongue, but if you blindfolded me and gave me something salty, I wouldn't be able to tell you what it was except for by the texture. So anyway, what happens is your brain slams against all the neurons in your nose. When you smell something, there's all these molecules, and it goes up this nerve, and then it goes through this little passageway, which on both sides in each nostril in the passageway, there's like 350 little nerve receptors on each side of the passageway it goes through. And the nerve receptors will pick up those molecules and interpret them into a particular odor. Some of them only pick up this certain odor. Some of them pick up a lot of odors, but then it's kind of like a symphony where all these little odors merge together, go to the brain, and then the brain interprets what they smell like and what the odor is.
So is it that these little sensors got damaged?
Yeah, what happens is when your brain slams on those things, because they go through a thin, delicate little bone between your sinuses and the passage to your brain, is your brain can slam against it and then just shear off all those nerve endings, with the result that you can't smell anything. That's the worst thing. Yeah, it's really a drag. Can't enjoy your food.
I'm sorry, Mom.
What you have to enjoy is the texture of the food, the feeling that you get after you eat, the warmth. A little spicy feels kind of good because at least you can taste something,
What about something like garlic? Can you taste garlic?
You only get the sensation of spicy food. Your tongue kind of burns a little bit.
Yeah.
Salt, it has to really be thinned out if it's something salty. One day we had for dinner one of those Polish sausages made with beef, grass-fed beef that they sell at Costco. They're super duper duper salty. And I tried that and I dipped it in mustard, which is super, super salty. And I felt like I was just eating salt. It's like, oh, yuck. It was horrible. Yeah, it was just like, I can't eat that. And now I've learned. Dad made hamburgers last night. Remember how good his hamburgers are?
Yeah.
I couldn't taste them. All I could find was little pieces of gristle in there. And I'm like, I don't like this.
Oh, no.
I don't like this. The texture wasn't that great. I don't know if I'll ever be able to eat beef again. I'm just hoping. I'm trying to sniff things, but nothing. Can't smell anything. Have you ever seen those little bottles of almond extract you can use in cookies or whatever? Take a sniff of that one day and you'll see it's like so strong, but I can just sniff it. Doesn't do anything.
And nothing happens?
Nothing happens.
Probably even like mint, like really strong, like mint oil.
Yeah, I can't smell any of that stuff. Vanilla, I can't smell it.
Well, you also can't smell Dad's farts.
I know, if he doesn't tell me. Yeah. I ask him, is this safe to go in here? He goes, not
really
yet.
funny.
And I said, I don't want to get any on my clothes, so I smell to other people.
Oh, Mom. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's kind of this invisible sense that you don't really think of that much.
Yeah. Well, I think you thought of it more than most people because you had like the strongest sense of smell.
Oh, I know. I really did. Well, it might come back because
It might.
5 years ago,
Let's hope.
when I had surgery, I explained to the anesthesiologist that I can't find words very fast either. That's another lingering effect.
That's okay. No problem.
I had trouble waking up after surgery. So he said, "Oh, I'm glad you told me." So he gave me something different, and I didn't lose my sense of smell. All I could smell was this metallic, funny odor for like 2 months, but it came back. But this one, I don't know.
I had problems coming out from being in anesthesia too.
Oh, did you? When was that?
When I had my collarbone surgery.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's good to tell the next time you get surgery to tell, and they'll use a different drug.
Hopefully, I don't have to do that anytime
Yeah,
soon.
I don't want any more surgery ever.
So, I mean, are you feeling pretty positive about all of this, or is it difficult, or is it kind of both?
It's kind of, I'm resigned.
Yeah.
It's going to be what it's going to be, you know.
Yeah.
I don't like not being able to smell, but at least
Yeah,
I
I
don't.
imagine.
At least I'm not a chef. That would be.
That's
I'm
true.
reading this book about this lady that was just going to start culinary school in New York, a prestigious culinary school. She was in her 20s. She had to work in a restaurant first. She was between working in the restaurant and then she was getting ready to go to the culinary school. She was jogging. She got hit by a car. She got a lot more severely injured. She had broken pelvis in 3 places, screwed up her knee, got a skull fracture. So she had a concussion too, because you can just assume. Anyway, she lost her sense of smell. She had to tell the culinary school that she couldn't come.
Wow, what a story.
Yeah, so she's recovering. And I think, I haven't gotten to the end, but I think she gets her sense of smell back, but it takes her years.
Ah, so there's hope, though.
There's hope. There are people that get their sense of smell back, but there's also people that don't.
I guess only time will tell.
Yeah. But the thing is, what fun is it to go out to eat or go to somebody's house to eat dinner with them? It's like,
Well, you still
oh,
get the social
well,
aspect, I suppose.
yeah, I know, I'm not that social.
Only when you want to be.
I am with my kids.
Yep, you are.
I also get overstimulated very easily. Last week I went to a thrift store with my friend Karen. She's 80 years old, and we both walk the unsteady, leading the unsteady. Anyway,
You too.
We went to a thrift store, and when I got in, I started looking at the clothes, and I'm like going, I can't handle this. It's too many things to look at, even though the store wasn't crowded or anything. It was just too much.
Well, you're still healing, so maybe just your brain just can't handle all of those things right now.
No, it can't. So I got really quickly overloaded, and I said, I'm going to go look at the books. The books were fine.
Because books are amazing,
Yeah.
and we've always liked books.
Yes, we have. And I also write. I'm like trying to write this book, and now I haven't been able to work on it for a long time, and kind of frustrating. But
Because, like, you can't come up with the words, or it's too difficult to concentrate on it, or
it's hard to concentrate and think of what I want to happen next.
well, I think that's hard in general. Now you have a concussion on top of it. It might get better after a while when you're all the way healed.
Hope so.
The one thing I learned when I was trying to heal is that I just had to have a lot of patience with myself. And it was like my body telling me what I could do, not me telling me what I could do. It's really hard, though.
Right. Well, I kind of went through that already with my broken ankle. So
Yeah, that's
kind of
true.
going through the whole thing again. My appendix surgery, then the other surgery.
Just think about what a rock star you are.
I survived everything.
You're a strong lady.
Yeah, that's what the concussion doctor said. Well, she said, you're tough. I think you're tough.
Yep, pretty much. I would agree with that statement. You are tough, Mom.
I'm just so thankful. I didn't lose my sight. I didn't lose my hearing. I didn't lose my sense of touch. Losing your sense of smell is kind of down there on the list. If you had to pick something.
That's a good perspective to have.
Yeah, so if I never get it back.
All right, so tell me what's been going on with you lately, Mom. What's the updates?
So I went to the neurologist. I took another CAT scan to make sure that my brain didn't keep bleeding, but it had stopped bleeding. It had resolved itself and it was absorbing.
That's great.
Then he made an appointment with the concussion clinic, which is right in the same office It's a different lady. So I went to her, and Dad went with me, and she wanted me to describe everything. And then she had me like close my eyes and try to balance. And she says, "You're doing great, other than looking very anxious." Because I'm more anxious now about walking. And Dad promised in 3 weeks we're going to Boulder, Utah, and staying in this really nice Boulder Mountain Inn. He wanted to go hiking, and he goes, "We'll only choose the most level trails, and we won't go very far." So he's breaking me in now to hiking again. But I'm like anxious. That's what I am anxious about.
I think that's normal.
Yeah, hope so.
But also, I think the less time that you spend between like the accident that happened and doing whatever it was again, in the end, it'll probably help you not be so anxious.
Yeah, I just won't go rock climbing again.
Yeah. What are you going to do the next time you see a little frog a little too far away from a spring, Mom?
Just leave it there. Yeah.
Just let nature take care of itself.
Yeah, it looked like it was doing fine. It could probably just hop down on its own, you know.
Oh, Mom.
My lesson with that is be more aware of my surroundings, and don't lean over while you're on a steep slope, because you'll fall.
Is there anything else that you want to add?
Yes. I'm very, very, very thankful for that I didn't get hurt more, that I live with Dad, and he's really been taking care of me really well.
Yay, Dad.
Another reason I'm grateful that I didn't get more seriously injured in front of Kyle. I mean, he probably has a little bit of PTSD just seeing me fall like that. Think if I would have gotten very seriously injured. Oh, man.
Well, we're really grateful that you didn't get really seriously injured.
Too, Mom.
Thank you.
Because we want to keep you around here looking for frogs for a really long time.
But just watching them from a distance.
I love you, Mom, and I'm glad that you're doing better. And I'm super happy that you would come on here.
I love you too, and I'm glad your hip is healing enough that you can ride your bike again. Now be careful. Be aware of your surroundings.
I am. I'm being even more careful than ever, really.
Good.
It's kind of unfortunately part of biking.
Just like breaking your ankle is part of hiking.
Thanks for chatting with me.
Oh, you're welcome. I hope I left you some good tidbits.
You did great, Mom. It was wonderful.
If you or someone you know would like to be interviewed on Live from Suckville, please do send me your stories at livefromsuckville@gmail.com. Live from Suckville can also be found on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Special thanks to Chris Kirby for the awesome theme music. This episode was recorded in my kitchen and produced by yours truly. Until next time.